Hello everyone, this is Nick Penef again with our second show of the year for Scale Networking on Steroids. Today we have a very interesting guest. He's going to talk about a topic that I have no idea what it is about, but I promise that it will be super interesting. The topic is the 80-20
No idea what it is about, but
the
I
rule.
promise that it will be super interesting.
Okay, just give me a second. Oh, somebody started talking. Actually, that was me, so give me a second. Okay, so the topic would be 80-20 rule for e-commerce entrepreneurs with Klaus Walter. He is the host and the producer of the e-commerce coffee break podcast and newsletter. He has 15,000 people who read his newsletter and listen to his podcast. So he has a lot to share with you guys. But before we do that, we're going to mention our sponsor, Scale.com. I am the co-founder of Scale.com, Extreme Power Brands, and a partnership advisor of over 40 companies in the e-commerce space. And what Scale does is it provides proactive referrals and introductions for people in any industry. So instead of waiting for the opportunity to come, you meet partners, you upload your contacts or partners or client there, you share the link of your partners, and you ask the other party to request interactions and vice versa. So your connections are your currency. So we simply facilitate the introduction cells between people. We just need to upload your contacts, you share them with the other partner on your end, and you just start doing swaps for like client partners, whatever you would like to do. But the main point is that you're doing warm introduction swaps. So the conversion rate and the rate of people booking meetings is much higher. So check it out. We're going to share how to sign up. We're going to give away one free account for a month. But right now we're going to talk more about the topic today. And let me bring our guest today to the stage. Hey, Klaus. Thanks for waiting. And
Hey.
nice to have you here. You have a super cool topic. So I'm really curious to know more about you because I know some stuff, but right now you're going to tell us more, and you're going to tell us about the 80-20 rule, which I think I suspect what would be about, and I think this is something that a lot of people in e-commerce in general need. But tell us more about you, and you can just give us more like tips about your topic. So thanks again.
Hey, Nick. Thanks, first of all, for having me on the show today. I'm really pumped about talking about the 80-20 rule. Maybe a quick background about myself. I'm an entrepreneur, digital marketer for over 20 years. I host, as you said, and produce the e-commerce coffee break podcast, which is a podcast where I interview world-class experts, founders, and thought leaders in e-commerce marketing and AI. Mainly we discuss topics around how to grow your business on and with Shopify. I'm also a slow nomad, which means I'm slowly traveling around the world. And Nick, I know you're a big traveler as well. I have lived on 3 continents, visited 60 plus countries, and right now I'm in Buenos Aires in Argentina. As for the 80-20 rule, that's something that came on my mind during my entrepreneurial journey. And most people might have heard about the 80-20 rule. It's also called named or called the Pareto principle, or the law of the vital few and the useful many. So to understand how it works, I want to go a little bit into the history, how the Pareto principle came up. It was developed by a name called Vilfredo Pareto in 1896. He had nothing to do with digital marketing. He has nothing to do with entrepreneurship or e-commerce. He was an economist, and he observed that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population. So that's where it started. Many years later, in 1941, Joseph Juran, a Romanian-born American engineer, applied this observation of the 80-20 rule to quality issues. So he basically brought it into production, into engineering, and from there it got its life on its own. So nowadays, if we are looking from the e-commerce side, from the digital world into the 80-20 rule, the most common rule that most people know about is that, for instance, 80% of your revenue, of your results, will come from 20% of your products. That's something that a lot of people know about, but there is other rules that you can apply. And the best way to start for yourself, either in your private life or in your business life, to apply the 80-20 rule is to look at different areas. So that can be, for instance, in marketing. It might be that 20% of your marketing activities bring you 80% of your clients. And that's something you potentially want to find out. So you want to dive deeper into that and really see and do an assessment or an edit or an audit of what you do, and to find out what is actually the most profitable activity that I have, the 20% that bring me 80% of my clients, and then focus on these 20% instead of the 80% that basically are just a waste of time. Does that make sense, Nick?
Actually, no, sorry, I just had to unmute myself. Yeah, by the way, that's actually a very good thing, because in partnerships, that's what I'm telling everybody, because partnership is my business. I run the agency, the network, it's all about partnership. This is what I tell everybody. You need to find 100 partners, because in the end, you're going to end up doing stuff with 20 of those, which are going to deliver like even higher than 80%. So usually this is the case. But what we're talking about is very important, because people usually give up too early before even trying. So I'll let you continue, but that's exactly how it is in partnerships.
Mm-hmm. It's another good example for the 80-20 rule. I will just go through a couple of examples, because I think examples are the best way to understand how you can apply the 80-20 rule to your business. One thing that happens quite often is that 80% of your complaints are coming from 20% of your customers, which has a nice effect. If you want to really make a decision there, you might go as far as firing these 20% of your customers, because they might just take too much time away from you. I mean, if these are valid complaints, obviously you should look into that as well. But same for customer support. 80% of the questions that are coming, or of the customer support requests are coming in, are 20% of the questions that are coming in. And with that, specifically in e-commerce, you can address this quite quickly and free up time for your customer support agents, and find these 20% of returning questions that are coming in all the time, that are basically taking 80% of their time, and address this already in your online store, in your customer communications. To give you an example there, probably the most common question is, when will my product arrive? That potentially is 80% of all things that are coming in. So you don't want to get as far as people really addressing your customer agent, your support agents with that. That's something that you want to find a way, either through an app, through an AI, whatever, to address this already, and then just freeing up your time. Another thing that you can talk about is that 20% of the input that you creates 80% of the results that you have. Or in other words, 20% of your workers produce 80% of your results. So you want to look into your team, into your workforce, and really see, is like, okay, who produces most of the results? And is there anything that you basically can help them to cut out activities, 80% of that, of activities that do not produce results. So in the course, saying the 80-20 rule, and it does not necessarily to be 80-20, it can be 10-90 or 70-30, but there's always something in your business that you should focus on and see, okay, this is really what brings most of my results, or of my pain, and then try to focus on these ones. And the other 80% that are giving little results or no results at all, you want to cut out. Or if it's necessary for your business, you want to find a way to outsource that, to give it to someone else. The reason for that is either it might be cheaper, or it might be someone who is better in dealing with these 80%. Not only cheaper, but be more focused on it and squeezing more out of it. Does that make sense, Nick, so far? Any questions?
Yeah, actually, it's right. I mean, I know it from the partnership perspective, but the examples that you're giving are very good, because sometimes people struggle with some stuff which is not important, and probably now if they apply these rules, they can actually optimize a lot of parts of their business. And I assume even life. I mean, because business and life, they have a lot in common. So do you have like some examples in life, for example, for the 80-20 rule?
Not necessary, but I mean, obviously the 80-20 rule in generally helps you to make better decisions during a problem-solving process. So whenever you look at a problem, you try to focus as, okay, what are the things that are really make it work, and what are the things that do not make it work? Now, as the benefit, why we're looking into it, there's a couple of definitely advantages of using the Pareto principle. So obviously, you might be able to create a greater productivity, a better efficiency of using your time and your energy. You will definitely become better in your problem-solving skills by applying this all the time. And also you might improve your decision-making skills because now you know what you need to look at, and you know that that's the point where you need to make a decision. So with that, you can prioritize your work better. And two things that I have learned in my life as an entrepreneur, and it's actually also a advice that I got from a business angel very early when I started my first company 20 years ago, is cut out time bandits and energy vampires. So time bandits is either a person or tasks that steals you time. So you want to find out, and again, 80-20 rule, you find out what that is and just try to get rid of it. And trying to get rid of it means give it to someone else. As an entrepreneur, and I see that with coaching clients that I had in the past, a lot of them have the shiny object syndrome. A lot of them are all over the place all the time, and they do a lot of things that they are either not good at it or not motivated in doing it. So then this is the point where you really need to make a cut and say, okay, I need to outsource that and find someone else who's better than me. And then you have energy vampires, and these are just tasks that drain your energy, and it's potentially something you're just not suited for. I'll give you an example. I have a basic understanding of bookkeeping, of accounting. I'm a solopreneur. I do my bookkeeping myself. I know how it works, but it drains my energy. It's just something I don't like to do. And once I'm going through the tasks, I say, yeah, it's necessary to do that. You can't cut that out of a business, but it drains my energy. I feel that. So it gives you just an example on what things you need to focus on, maybe a little bit more. And you don't need to do that permanently and every day, all the time. For certain tasks, for instance, with the example that I gave you earlier with the customer support, you do it once a month. You just look into your data and see, okay, what's the 20% of returning customer requests that are coming in that are taking away time from my agents, and how can I make that better? Any questions, Nick?
But I forgot that. I forgot my question. Anyways, I mean, I'm gonna, when I remember, I'm gonna ask it again. But probably no. I would appreciate if you can give like more examples, because yeah, now I remember for the accounting and bookkeeping. I don't think there is people who like to do that. I mean, and a lot of like business owners, no, they don't even know their numbers, no. So so that's probably not the 80-20 in the reverse. Sometimes they spend 80% in growing the business, and they don't spend the 20% to see if the business is profitable. So that's why using this rule, they probably need to outsource to somebody, and instead of just wasting their time to. And that's actually a common thing in Amazon. And Amazon, Shopify, probably the same. People usually sell and they have no idea if they're profitable or not. And the reason why they don't, they're either doing it themselves or they have the wrong partner for that. So actually, it's a very good rule, by the way.
I think you gave a good example there. For bookkeeping, coming back to bookkeeping, the 20% that you need is your KPIs. That's your report. That's your balance sheet. That's what you need as an entrepreneur. These are the 20% that are really important. The 80% to put it into a system and to, prepare it for your tax returns and whatsoever, that can be done by someone else. So that means when it comes to accounting, bookkeeping, don't do it on your own, but just focus on the 20% that in your business make a difference, and that's where you make your decisions. So that's your balance sheet, that's your reporting, and so on and so forth. Other examples there would be, for instance, to ask yourself, what are the top 20% of the audience that I want to reach out there, or where is the 20% of my web traffic coming from that generates 80% of the sales. So looking really into your sales strategy, for instance, Facebook ads, Google ads, something that pretty much every entrepreneur out there runs and should run. But there you want to look into what are the 20% of ads that I have that give me 80% of the results or more. A lot of solopreneurs, small and medium enterprises, I know they either outsource paid ads to an agency, or they just start it and then every week or 10 days they look into it. And that's something that if you run it on your own, you should actually do every day, and then really figure out what are the 20% that make the really big difference, and then cut out everything else. So you see, there's a lot of different areas where you can apply the 80-20 rule. But as said, you don't need to do that permanently every day. Just take a bigger batch or a area of your business and then look at it with the 80-20 rule in mind, and then try to make a decision how you can optimize that. When it comes to employees, for instance, I'm a business partner with a company that's called Smart Ecommerce Marketing.com, and that's where it comes to outsourcing, where we basically take over the 80% of necessary work. For instance, like the bookkeeping or the marketing creation, whatsoever, that are necessary, but are not the most important 20% that should stay with the business owner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, no. As you were chatting, I did a quick check on one of my clients' partnership dashboard. We have 600 partners, and 20% of the partners are actually generating the whole revenue. So it's exactly what you said. I mean, and I've been telling that, but just from my observations, but I never knew that there is a rules, and I just checked that, and it's confirmed. So. And
Yeah.
it's a large number of people, like 600 partners now. So 120. It's even almost exactly 20% is what I checked. So
as I don't focus so much on the 20%, it can be 10%, it can be 30%, but there's always a smaller percentage in that
exactly.
range that makes all the difference. And I think the key factor to take away from our call today is to really have the mindset, the 80-20 mindset, and look with that kind of thought process at your business, and then try to go through it step by step and sort out. It helps tremendously. And also, and I think that's very important, it will make you happier at the end of the day, because you can focus on the things that you enjoy, and you can focus on the things that are showing results. And then obviously with that, you will be happier and you will feel less burnt out. If you're all over the place, obviously you're burnt out, your brain is jumping back and forth. And I have been there, believe me, more than once. So you really start getting a mindset of focusing on the things that matter. And then obviously you need to apply that to a stage or to a step where you start outsourcing to give things away, or even completely get rid of things. I mean, if you're doing marketing and 80% of your marketing is not working, then probably you need to cut out a lot of things.
Yeah, actually, and this is one of my goals, by the way, for 2024, because I do a lot of stuff. I'm very well organized. But I run agency, network, SaaS, and right now I'm gonna start doing a newsletter and YouTube channel. So I'm gonna start delegating a lot of tasks from my team, because I can do all of that myself. But like I said, I'm gonna be spending a lot of time for stuff that I shouldn't be doing, because and that's probably not how everybody should use stuff. And I've seen probably the most successful people that I've met, they know their limits and they kind of delegate, and that's what they're saying. Okay, delegate as early as possible. If you think that you're the best in something, you're wrong. There is always somebody who is better than you and who can actually do it even for you or do it better. So that's important. I mean, so
Yeah.
do you have any tips for for the educational part? Now, when you're teaching people, can you apply that in a case? Now, for example, from let's say for hiring people, because that's one of your business. Now, when you hire people, is there such a rule from let's say from 20% of the candidates are actually good fit for what you're looking for, or there is no such thing for hiring people?
That's a very good question, and it shows you focusing on the things that you're good in. I'm not good in hiring. I never was. And so I always had someone by my side who can do that for me and doing this much better. I'm actually absolutely not qualified to give any information about a hiring process. I'm an entrepreneur for a very long time. I hire people by a completely gut feeling, which is probably not the best thing to do. That's part of it, but obviously there's other things that apply to hiring people. And so I can't help on that one. But I think what makes sense there, and that's something that was 20-something years of entrepreneurship I learned, is delegating. And you said that is very, very important. And it's not always easy, specifically if you start your own business. You want to have control over everything and so on. So on. You start to micromanage, and specifically if you have employees and you're micromanaging all the time, they don't like that. So that will be not a very nice atmosphere. But I think, and that's one of my strongest principles that I carry in business life is, and you mentioned that, is I do every task in my business, whatever I come up with. In the beginning, I do it myself for a certain point because I want to understand the process. Give you an example: Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, whatever it is. So in the beginning, I try to learn the process. I try to figure out how it works, and I do it for myself as far as I can for a while. And then I find someone who's better than me. And there's always, always, always someone who's better than me. So, but the biggest advantage, the biggest takeaway that you have from that is if you have done it for yourself for a while, you can talk to the person that you hire. That might be either an internal employee, a freelancer, an agency, or whatever. You can talk to them on eye level. So they can't tell you any kind of, sorry my French, bullshit stories because you have done it. So you know the topic. And that gives you a much better position in negotiating, in talking generally about the topic with them, if you have a general understanding. If you have never done any kind of paid ads and then you hire an agency running your ads for your money, they can tell you everything or anything. So, and you take it as it is. So that's why it is so important as an entrepreneur, small, medium business, to have a general understanding and then outsource and then focus on the 20%, to come back to the Pareto principle, on the 20% that you like and that you're good at. Because as you said, no one is good in everything.
Yeah, by the way, when you mentioned the hiring, I have also very, unique way of hiring. I never put like job posts or like I never read CVs. Usually, no, I hire people when they try to sell me something or people that I work with. So I kind of test them and I tell them, okay, no, do this small task, and you're gonna be hired. And with my way of hiring, there is a 99.1% rule. 99 don't bother to do anything. The 1% are the guys that I hire. But this shows me which guys are open and proactive, because and I'll give another example. For example, whenever I chat with people, I'm gonna put them in my newsletter. I'm gonna connect them with people and tell them, okay, the only thing that you need to do is just sign up for my newsletter. And some people don't even bother with that. So how can you expect something who you're giving a lot of value? They just need to do one small favor for you to sign up for your newsletter. They don't do that. Or for example, I tell somebody, okay, send me a short introduction about yourself. I'm gonna connect you with 10 guys. Some of them might become clients. Some people never bother to do that. So it's actually a very quick way to filter people. I'm gonna do a favor for you. I'm gonna help you out. You need to help out yourself. I'm not believer. I don't believe. I'm not religious. But they have it in the Bible. If you want God to help you out, help yourself first. So if you're not doing any effort, how do you expect that you're gonna get something in return? That's off topic, but it's another. It's actually part of that. That sometimes people, the small things make the big results. So I think that's partially like 28 rule. You do small steps, you get big results. You don't do anything. Anyway, there's a saying: nothing comes out from doing nothing. So I'm
Right.
gonna.
But I think you said it's like the 1%. So we're not talking about now. We're talking about the 1 to 99% rule. But again, the 1% who signed up for the newsletter or who did the tasks, that's the one that you want to focus on. That's the one where you want to hire. So it's the same. So it's less about the percentage number. It's more about the mindset for you to find out what works and then really go deep into what works, and the rest you cut out, you give someone else or whatsoever. A lot of people are just all over the place and they're trying to solve all the problems at the same time, which obviously doesn't work.
Yeah, you're right about that, because sometimes even I catch myself because I'm in like 4 or 5 like big WhatsApp Slack groups and people ask for help. And sometimes I get distracted and I spend a lot of time actually helping because I'm like that. If you would like to be connected, I'm gonna connect you. But sometimes, like you said, you need to prioritize. Do the important stuff first, then you're gonna help them out. They're not gonna go anywhere. So that's why also like delegating is good, but I guess organizing yourself, like spend 8% of the time, like for the most important part of what you're gonna generate. So tell us about I think I have a question about your building a podcast and a newsletter, because a lot of people have no idea how valuable is that 80-20 principle. Can you apply that in building like an audience?
Absolutely. I think you can. Now, building an audience, I think nowadays it's very important. For speaking for e-commerce, obviously a returning customer is far cheaper and much more valuable than acquiring a new customer. That's the one thing, talking about e-commerce. Now, when we're talking about generally a audience, whatever that is, that might be either that you're selling something, you have a profit, or in my case, running a podcast, is you own the or in the case of a newsletter, you own the audience. You have the data, you have the subscribers, you have the email addresses and whatsoever. So that's owned marketing. If you're running Facebook ads or Google ads, Meta ads, whatever you want to call them, you're building a house on rented land. So it's paid marketing. And in the moment when either the algorithm changes or they change their policies, you might be off it. So building your own audience, it's time consuming. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of building trust that people sign up for you and stay with you. And but it's definitely the most valuable audience that you can have. And you get a lot of feedback from that. Now, my podcast, I in the lucky position to talk to a lot of very smart people. And for me as a podcast host, it helps to be not the smart person on the call because I learn a lot. So they're founders, they're startup founders, they're developers. They talk about AI, e-commerce, marketing. So with every call that I have, I learn something new, which is great. I love learning. But I also try to put myself in the position of my listeners. Because I want to ask the questions they would potentially ask my guest so that they can learn from that too. And it's a slow process. It takes quite some time. I'm doing the podcast for, I don't know, about 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years now. And the audience is growing. And the feedback that I get is very, very good. And it gives me also more ideas on how to grow the audience and where to find my audience. Because I'm in the same situation as everyone. I have to apply the 80-20 rule. I'm doing marketing for the podcast as well to promote the show. And I need to find, obviously, ways to get to potential new listeners, people that don't know about the show and might be interested. And that's also trial and error, and then focusing on the 20% that hopefully bring me new subscribers.
One question about how they actually market that to find like new subscribers. I know what they do on my end. For example, I do webinars. I do the show like today. We collect like we have people who sign up, then we put them in the newsletter. So, what are you using on your end to get in front of like new people, like new potential subscribers?
Yeah, so different ways there. One way is obviously being a guest on other people's show, like today on your show, which I really appreciate. You can do the same with newsletters, obviously. You can do newsletter swaps or newsletter ads to be in a newsletter of someone else who already has your audience. So you do this kind of co-marketing. That can be either a promotion swap or you buy an ad on someone else. You can also buy audio ads on other podcasts because then people are already on the medium. And then obviously you can do the whole range of paid ads to try to get people on. That works particularly good with newsletter subscribers to find them on Meta, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Threads. On Twitter or X as it's called now. So you can reach out on other platforms, but the best way to grow an audience is to find them on the medium, on the channel that is your channel. So finding a podcast subscriber, the best way is to be already on another podcast, because then already they're listening to podcasts or are on YouTube if you have a YouTube channel. Newsletter subscribers, to grow a list, you can go far broader. That's because you have your newsletter subscriber form somewhere where people can sign up, and that can be basically on every channel. I think really you need to find out who's your audience and really ask your audience who they are. Sometimes you have the perception of that who your lister is, your podcast is, and then you do reach out and the results coming back and say, oh yeah, that's someone totally different, but they're still interested in you. So you need to change your marketing. So the better your understanding is of your audience, of your listener, of your customer, the higher the likelihood is that they sign up for your newsletter or follow you on your YouTube channel or on your podcast.
Okay, Klaus, and because we're almost done, can you give our people who are gonna watch the show like to 80-20% hack, how they can quickly implement that in what they're doing if they have no idea where to start? Where
Yeah.
should they start now to start using that and see how it works for them?
I would go if you're selling a product or service, look into your sales numbers and try to find out the 20% of your customers that bring you 80% of your sales. That might give you some ideas who that is profile wise, and then focus on these 20% to make your business bigger.
Okay, that's an extremely valuable tip. See, what are your ideal clients now, like for a SaaS solution, like for ecom. See who they are and what you're doing correct, like right with them, and see if you can actually change for the other ones, I guess. And so, like I said, feedback. No, feedback is the most important part. Now, how important is feedback in actually running like any kind of business?
I think it's
It,
number one. It's number one. You need to have customer feedback.
Okay, exactly. So let's say now, if you're starting a new business, like a brand or a product or a service, would you advise those people to actually give away either a lot of free products or to give away like free subscriptions so they can actually get feedback first? Because some people are wondering, are we ready, are we not? So do you think that's the best way? Give people like actually get users, get clients, see what they say, and just go from there.
No, I'm not a big fan of free giveaways because you attract the wrong kind of people. You attract freebie seekers, and they might not be necessarily your audience. If you start and you have no clear idea who your customer is, look at your competitors. It's very seldom that you start a business where there is no competitor around. If you have, congratulations, but normally there is others who are at least in the field that you're operating in. And then look at your competitors and try to find out who are their customers, who's their audience, where is your competitor doing marketing, and that gives you an idea about the potential customers. Once you have the first ones, then obviously feedback, reaching out and learning more from them is the next step. But I wouldn't try to bribe people into a new business by giving out freebies or something, because as said, usually you attract the wrong kind of person.
Okay. Thanks, Klaus. And I think we're done. So I'm gonna mention briefly again our sponsor, my company, Scale.com. It's kind of unique, by the way, Klaus. So we knew who is a good fit, but we need to educate people. So right now we need to educate like 80% of our audience, so we can actually have 20% of them to be paid clients. But I didn't know about this like rule, and we're gonna apply it more. But for anybody who is watching, listening to us, make sure that you use that, check your numbers, because at the end everybody's doing that to make some money, and the profit is the most important part. So see if this rule applies to you. If not, work on those numbers and see where you're doing it wrong. So if you enjoy our show, I strongly recommend to connect with Klaus. We're going to feature the recording in our newsletter so you can watch it there, and you'll be able to connect with him. And I strongly recommend to sign up for his newsletter and for his podcast, because he has a lot of great guests. And of course, if you're the right fit, you can actually connect with me and I can connect with Klaus. He's on my skill page. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. And like I said, if you have any questions, get in touch with Klaus, get in touch with me. If you enjoy that, recommend us to other people. But keep doing partnerships, connect with people, and you're going to do what we did today. We met a month ago because we're connecting by a partner. We did some partner swaps. Now I was a guest at Klaus' podcast. He's a guest in mine. See, there is no money involved. Pure partnerships. That's how it's done. So thanks again, Klaus, for joining today. And we're going to go backstage to chat for some other stuff. Adios, everybody.
Thanks. Goodbye.